Well, we see your name at least. We can't see your camera at the moment, but your name is here, so we trust you will join us.
Who's the lady in the black and white stripes?
Karen.
Karen Panett.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hey, John, remember last time we were holding our hand up and then we did, and it disappeared? You can't
mean-
hear. Can you
You
hear
mean
me?
doing that? Like I've got my hand up now?
Yeah, I think we were using the wrong hand.
Could have been.
The second one just waved and went down, but the one we want to hold up.
That's the one on the very bottom.
Okay. I'm about to call the roll because it looks like we've actually got a quorum at 6:30, which is great. John, did you have a question before we do that?
No, I was just, but shouldn't we wait until we've got, enough full members to make it easier?
We do,
We do, you
don't we?
sure?
Oh, maybe we don't. Let's see. We have Sally's a full member, Nancy is, Karen is, I am, you are. We need one more.
I am. I'm a member, a full member.
Who?
On my application, I put full member.
I know, Rosemary, but, and the Council on Aging has no control over this whatsoever. The volunteer committee assigns the roles, so it's whatever they sent you in the letter when they offered you the role. And again, the council, we're not even consulted in this, we're just told who's coming. So
Letter?
it might have been a mistake on their part. You might want to go back to them and ask about it.
I'm Debbie Small. Am I a full member?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if you mentioned my name.
Yeah, no, I didn't
Yeah,
see you.
and Joan's there now, so we definitely have,
All
you
right.
know, we definitely have a quorum of full members.
Okay, and Rosemary, I'm sorry, again,
I
the
need
council
my
has
help.
nothing to do with it. We just get whatever they tell us. So
I'm looking my letter here.
if you want to go back to them and inquire, I think that's a very legitimate question. All right, let me call the roll. Debbie Small? Debbie, you're muted.
Yes, sorry.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yes.
Joan Coco?
Yes. Am I muted? Wait a minute.
Nope, I hear you. I heard you. Karen Fatino? She emailed me to say she might be a little late because she's stuck at work, but she'll be along. Karen Panett?
Here.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack?
Yes.
Thank you. John Parsons?
Here,
Sally Hoyt?
Present.
Thank you. Yay, Sally. Sandy Schaefer? Nope, not yet. And Jackie Behenna?
Here.
Thank you. Rosemary Di Benedetto?
Here. Thank you.
Here. Beverly Cuneo? Nope. Oh, no, don't see her. Jolynn Eck? Don't see her. Karen Janowski?
Here.
Thank you. And Nancy Tuardros?
Here.
Great. And I have not heard an answer yet. Chris, maybe you know. Do you know, is John, I don't know how to pronounce his name,
Marilyn,
yes?
I played cards with him this afternoon and he said he'd never heard whether Benny's accepted or not.
Okay, they probably haven't finished processing it, but that answers the question. But thank you for that update, Joan.
Okay.
The way it goes is the volunteer committee makes recommendations, but then it has to go to the select board and the select board makes the final approval. And after that, the letters go out. So
Okay.
maybe the timing just didn't connect, or maybe they,
Well, he's still waiting, so,
okay, great. Good to know. Thank you.
okay.
All right, we have a quorum. First order of business is the approval of the August minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read it? And are there any, well, I guess we're supposed to ask for a motion to approve it and then we'll have discussion. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I make a motion.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
And a second?
second,
Thank you. Any discussion?
The date on it is the 7th. July, it says 2022-702. I think
Okay.
it should be 8:02.
Yeah,
Somebody
the
crossed
date,
it out.
the date is wrong.
Yeah, somebody crossed it out today on the ones they gave out.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Nancy will take care of that for us. Sounds like it's already a done deal. Anything else from anyone? All right, then in that case, I'll take the roll to approve the minutes. Debbie Small,
Approve.
thank you. Joan Coco,
Approved, yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes,
me, Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlak,
Yes.
John Parsons,
Yes,
Sally Hoyt.
Yes.
And that gets us through the full members. So it's approved unanimously by the full members present. Thank you. Next topic. Discussion of in-person or hybrid council on aging meetings. Many people have mentioned you'd like to go back to in-person meetings. I just wanted to put that out there as an option, or I gather we can also do hybrid if we want. It would be ideal to go back to all one way or the other just for the sake of simplicity, but it's certainly perfectly okay to do hybrid if we want. Any thoughts on this?
Can I speak or do I?
You can speak, Rosemary.
I think going into the winter months, you should do a Zoom meeting with the weather and the uncertainty of the weather. But it would be nice to get together every once in a while, just so we could see each other.
Okay.
I think we should go back to in-person meetings. They were much more productive, I thought.
How about a hybrid
I think
meeting?
I think I hear Sally talking. Sally, do you have an opinion?
I would have the Board of Health approve of going back to in-person meetings before we go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Karen?
The Board of Health has approved all the other meetings to be in person, so I'm not sure why they wouldn't allow this board to also be meeting in person. And I also would, I mean, I'm brand new. This is my very first meeting. And I would love to meet in person. If some people, like Rosemary said, have difficulty, especially in the winter, then a hybrid would be great. But for those of us who could meet in person, I would like to, excuse me, move to an in-person meeting.
All right. My understanding is that there's no issue with the town or the Board of Health. And Nancy, please correct me if I'm wrong, because I know you looked into this, but we're free to do what we'd like. I just wanted to get a sense of what people would like. It sounds like we have quite a few people, myself included, who'd like to meet in person, but we can do this hybrid so that those who want still to do it through Zoom will be able to. We just need to get the logistics worked out. So I will take it upon myself to inquire about how we do that, and I will notify people before the next meeting. But the
Okay,
goal is to make it both ways next meeting, in person for those who want to come in person, and hybrid, and Zoom for those who want to stay hybrid.
okay.
All right, and we don't need to vote on this or anything. Is that a raised hand, John? You're muted. You can't hear you, John. You're muted.
I think we should get Chris's input on this, because if we do go back to meetings, that means somebody's going to have to be there to open the Pleasant Street Center. And
That's-
it's the Pleasant Street Center representative tonight.
Right, and it looks like Chris didn't stay. He just got the meeting going and then left.
Oh, he's there.
No,
Oh, you're there. Yay.
No, I'm here.
Okay, Chris, do you have thoughts on this?
I think it is the seniors center, so whatever the group would like, I think we can make work. So
Okay.
if you want to go back into person, I think that's fine. And if you want to do hybrid at the same time, that's fine as well.
Doesn't it depend on Amy? Yes.
I think as long as we have somebody at the center, we can make it work. And I think that, that could be me, that could be Amy, that could be Jean, Jean as well. So
Or Jenna?
Jenna. So we can make it work. with whatever you guys would like.
Okay. I'd even, and we can follow up on this outside of this meeting, but Chris, I'd even like to consider looking at maybe a space in the library. I know acoustics are a challenge in the Pleasant Street Center, and I know in the old days when we met in the little rooms upstairs, I get multiple people telling me they couldn't hear me. My voice doesn't carry up there. I don't have a strong, on Zoom, you can just turn up my volume and I'm as loud as you'd like. But in person, I don't carry as well. And a microphone, if we can use the microphone, might be one answer. Working in one of the rooms at the library that has perhaps better acoustics might be another answer, but we can talk about all that offline, and we can try different places. You know, we don't have to make a decision for all of eternity. We can see what we might try in October.
Mhm.
Sound reasonable to everybody?
Yep,
All right, I will investigate and do the best I can for us. How's that?
sounds good.
Okay. All right. Select board liaison update. I don't think we have anyone from the select board tonight, so nobody here. Recalc liaison update. John Parsons, can you share insights?
Yeah, two members from the Council on Aging were at the meeting, and there was a full body of members of the recalc committee in attendance, thanks to the alertness of one of the members of the Council on Aging who quickly texted somebody who was nodding off and didn't make the meeting, but that person will go unnamed. But we did have a full membership eventually.
Good job. Can't imagine who that person was.
We had a long discussion about what would take place at Walgreens if, you know, that were to take place, and in addition to that, a long discussion about all the priorities. I think we'll get into that later on in this meeting because everybody hopefully picked up the packets that Nancy spent so much time working on.
Yeah.
The only other thing that happened at the meeting, we had a brief update on the communications, the video that's being worked on, and the webpage that John Sasso is taking care of. And that's really about it, because the meeting was dominated by Walgreens.
Okay. And we did during that meeting put in a request, and Jenna said she will follow up. She just hasn't had time, understandably. She's got a lot on her plate right now, but there is a newsletter now that's put out by the Recalc committee about this whole issue of senior center or community center. And I asked that it be distributed to everyone who's on the Pleasant Street Center mailing list, as well as on the Recalc one. And Jenna said she'd be happy to. I just know she's swamped, but it's coming. There is a regular newsletter that comes from Recalc, and it will be, I think, important for as many of the seniors in Reading as possible to be seeing things like this. Yes, Nancy.
I just also want to remind people that the meetings are all available on our RCTV. And they're very informative to watch. And the nice thing is you can speed up the conversation. So you can set the conversation at 2 times. And then when you really want to hear something, you set it back to normal. But I would encourage people to take the time to watch those recalc meetings. You'll learn a lot.
Nancy, is it only on the night of the recalc meeting?
No, you can go in anytime
Okay.
and watch them.
Okay, thank you.
The next recalc meeting is the 28th, if anybody is interested in watching that.
Okay. Thank you, John.
It's really helpful when people attend as well. I mean, the rules of the game are that the members of Recalc get recognized first, but I'd say they do a really good job of making sure that those who make the effort to get to the meeting get a chance to speak if they have something to say. So I encourage you, if you have feelings about this, to go, because when you watch it on TV, you can't respond. But if you're there, you can raise your hand, and it might take a few minutes, but they'll get to you, and you can be heard on the spot, and you can get answers to your questions as well. So I encourage everyone to attend those if possible. Okay. Elder Services Report. Chris, are you taking that on tonight? You're muted, Chris.
I think I think so. Bear with me.
No problem. Take your time. I'm gonna take a second and adjust the fan because I'm melting and the far side of the room is getting cooled instead of me. I'll be right back on screen. And that, oh, so much better.
All right. I believe the report would be the report with the numbers, statistics from Pleasant Street, September.
That's right.
Okay. Yep.
Nancy's showing an example.
Yes. Perfect. So as everyone can see, I listed some of the highlights. Highlights in August, September. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We had a new senior center coordinator start. That was me. Hi. August 15th. We had Sally Hoyt's 100th birthday celebration on August 25th. Memory Cafe returned on August 9th. That's partnered with Stoneham Council on Aging, or Senior Center. A huge one, which we're excited about, is the ReCal community survey released on, I think it was September 6th. I hope I have the right date on that. But it is released, so hard copies are can be picked up at the Pleasant Street Center, and I believe also at Town Hall and the library, and they can also be dropped off those locations. September here on the 21st, we have the flu clinic. Tai Chi is returning, and birthday lunch celebrations for September is on September 22nd. So those are some of the highlights that I've wanted to note. I think I tried to do the best statistics I could. I hope this is okay.
You're doing great. You're doing fabulous.
I can always alter this if anything doesn't make sense, but as you can see, we have duplicated and unduplicated numbers in the columns. I was trying to run from fiscal year July to June, but I did go back to, this past June. So you can see June, July, and August. As far as I can tell, I think the numbers are looking pretty good. Time will tell with each month. Hopefully we'll get a good trajectory with the numbers, but we're pretty happy with them. I think we're going to continue trying to add as many programs as possible, along with trips. And I think, does anyone have any questions on the report that you have? Yes, Karen.
Not a question, just a comment. I have to say the celebration for you, Sally, was absolutely wonderful. And I wanted to commend Marilyn for her words. I think the entire community needs to be aware of Sally's accomplishments. And I was really impressed with Marilyn's presentation and her speech. It was really outstanding. So congratulations, Sally. It was wonderful to be able to celebrate you.
I
agree.
And I thoroughly enjoyed the whole event myself, Sally. I had fun writing your speech, fun delivering your speech, and fun spending the day with you. And I'm really glad you got the opportunity to interact with lots of people. We had a steady stream of people who wanted to come and say hello to you. And you seem to be enjoying it. And that was certainly a major goal for the events. So I'm glad we were able to do that.
Yes.
I'm trying to think if there's, I'm trying to think. We have quite a few things coming up in October, which we're excited about. And we have some good trips. So I don't know how much detail you want with this. Please let me know.
What we usually get at this point, and I know things are sort of a little out of whack at the moment, the council at the senior center, but one of the things that the Council on Aging does is through our trust funds, we're able to fund special events. And it's sort of the norm that Sally Amy will usually have, and her predecessors. It's just standard practice is, part of our mission with those trust funds is to spend it in ways to provide entertaining and productive events for our seniors. So it's not unusual at all for the Pleasant Street Center to brainstorm and think of, this would be a really neat idea, but we don't have the money, and ask us and price it out, at least ballpark, and come to us saying, could we have, $500 for this or $300 for that? And, reasonable requests are what we're all about funding. So, and I don't know if you've had any time to do that or to coordinate with Amy. And if not, that's fine, next month.
I think we were trying from the word, if I'm correct, we have a lot of the same things coming up. Now, just so for some clarification, would this be for September or October?
It could be, well, September is almost, half over, so it could be either. I mean, there's no rule.
Gotcha.
It's just, usually the request is there before the event takes place, so you're going to be able to get reimbursed for it.
Yeah. No, we have a lot of the events coming up. Birthday celebration. We have, where was the other one? Movie and a pizza coming up. So we do have quite a few of the same events coming up, and we are trying to add a few more here, but I don't have those. We don't have those scheduled quite yet. So we were chatting today. I could probably get you a better breakdown, but I think we were trying to request $700. $700
To cover the whole of them.
I believe. I got a little confused on which month we were looking at, which is why I'm asking.
All right. If we had a motion to approve the money for the upcoming birthday party, pizza party, and if you have any other specifics on what the others might be.
Bear with me on this. I'm sorry.
Take your time. You're doing great. You're doing absolutely great.
I do have them, but I don't have them with me, and I apologize for that. I can get those to you by probably tomorrow or Wednesday at the latest.
The challenge is just to get a motion to approve the funding. We need
Gotcha.
some level of detail. It doesn't have to be very specific, but we have to have a general idea of what the event might be.
No, we have birthday party coming up. We have in October, we have September birthday party, October birthday party. We have movie and lunch in October as well.
From the minutes from last meeting, it appears that the birthday funding for September was approved.
Yeah, I think it was, but October probably wasn't discussed yet.
Probably no. And also there was funding for the welcome coffee.
Right.
For the coordinator with the two things approved.
Right. Did the welcome coffee take place yet, Chris?
That's happening on the 15th, which is this Wednesday, Thursday.
Okay, so that's already covered.
Okay.
Since I've got my hand up, could I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Yes, John.
That maybe we put this off to a little later in the meeting. Someone who's as sharp as Nancy could probably go back and see what it costs us to fund the last pizza and movie and what it costs us to fund a birthday party, say back in May, and then go with those figures.
Nancy, do you think you can help us out with that?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
And remember, we can word the motion as approving up to a dollar amount. It doesn't mean we have to spend that much. So as long as we're staying in a reasonable ballpark.
Right, and if Nancy gives us that ballpark, I think we'd probably all feel more comfortable knowing what we were voting on.
I agree.
John, thank you. I appreciate everyone's patience as I almost got everything organized.
You're doing great, Chris. Absolutely great.
So
You're holding down the fort for all these people. You're doing great.
thank you. And I'll wait for Nancy to get a figure on that one.
Okay. All right. So we'll come back to that. I'm going to put a note at the bottom. Funding. All right. Financial report. I saw that we had the 3 financial reports in the packet.
Marilyn.
Yes.
Rosemary has had her hand up for a couple
Rosemary,
minutes.
please. Yes. Yes, Rosemary.
On the funding, I think the birthday party was usually around $650. The coffee that you're talking about Thursday, I think that's the first time you're gonna be doing that. There's also a trip going out on Thursday. A lot of people aren't gonna be there. We're going to Ogunquit. It's the Ogunquit trip, which by the way, isn't in the Pleasantries. People were trying to find that today and what time the bus was leaving. All trips I propose should be put in the Pleasantries every month. So when people pick it up, they know what the schedule is. Another point I want to bring up, for years and years, when people come for their birthday lunch, we give them a little gift of $5. So $5 today, when you factor in inflation, is probably worth $1. I would like to, I don't know how you do this, propose that it be raised to 10.
I think what we need to go to 10 is a request from the Pleasant Street Center, probably, or can we, actually, I guess the Council on Aging could approve that. John, you're our legislative person. What do you think?
I'm not really sure on that one. I do agree with your first thought on it, that it should come from Pleasant Street first.
Yes.
All right, Chris, maybe that's something you could discuss, is suggesting that
Wait a
we.
minute, I don't know what you mean that it has to come from Pleasant Street.
That
Pleasant Street.
That somebody on staff at Pleasant Street has to make the request.
Chris is on staff.
I understand that, but I think it's something that needs to be looked into a little bit or thought about a little bit.
If nothing else, we need to know what the total dollar amount would be so we could approve it. But it seems very reasonable to me.
You won't know the dollar amount because every birthday lunch, you don't know how many people with their birthday is going to show up that day, that particular day.
But they know on average how many there are, Rosemary.
Well, there was 4 last month.
Okay.
4 in August.
I think
Well,
it will not be hard. I think it will not be hard for the Pleasant Street staff to talk it through and think what you might need if we went to 10. A, do you want to go to $10? And B, what that might need to cost for the next 6 months, say, for the rest of the year. And then come back with a proposal. I think it would probably be accepted without any issue, but I can't speak on it until we actually get there.
And you know, Chris is new. This is his first meeting. I don't think it would be fair to have him to jump into having to make a decision without talking to people who have been around the Pleasant Street Center for weeks, months, or years. I just don't think it would be fair to Chris.
I agree.
Okay, so who does he have to confer with to come up with the change?
Well, that's for Chris to figure out with the staff. I mean, the Pleasant Street staff works together to do these things, and we don't dictate what the Pleasant Street Center does. We're separate.
We can figure this out pretty quickly. We can have a discussion this week, probably even tomorrow, and get that ball rolling. So.
That sounds
So
like
my other thought is, I know we have discussed the funding. You have 3 trust funds that you're spending or drawing some interest from. The federal government gave us like $900,000 for elder services. Where is it? How can we spend it? How can we get into that money? Who has control of it? Did we get a check? Is it deposited?
That's a good agenda item for the next meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody here has that answer, Rosemary, but it's a good agenda item for the next meeting.
Okay.
I agree. I believe in the past meetings when we've talked about this informally, we've heard that Jean Delios is involved in it, but that also the select board is involved in it. I think there are a lot of hands in it. So I think that's a good question to get clarified.
Do we have our hands in it?
No,
No.
we can't. The money was not given to us to use at all.
It was given to elder services.
We're
Yeah,
not
but we're not
elder
elder services. We're the Council on Aging.
So that's another board, elder services, that controls the money?
No, that's a department within the town.
They're employees. We're volunteers in a separate board that's appointed by the select board.
And does Elder Services have meetings every month?
every day.
They're just like a business, Rosemary, except it's government, you know, they're full-time.
They don't have a meeting like this so people can have input?
No, it's
No.
it's a town department like DPW or the retirement board or
The police
Um,
department.
the police department. So they hold staff meetings, but they don't have the same open meeting requirements that the Council on Aging does.
Oh, are you telling me the Council on Aging will not have any input in spending the $900,000 that we got from the federal government?
No, we're saying that it's a good item to put on the agenda for next week. I
Okay,
mean,
next
next
month.
meeting,
all right.
because no one can really right now answer these details. But they're all good questions.
Yes.
So let's talk about it in October. Maybe we can have someone from ARPA who distributes the funds come and speak to us about that.
And speak to us on how we get to spend some of that funds, because we're dealing with people. We're on that level dealing with people.
Well, we, the Council on Aging, cannot, but Elder Services can. A town department, they're the ones that will be spending the money. Can we provide advice? Yes, we can. But how we do that, that's a good discussion. And it might even come up as we talk about Walgreens and the new Council on Aging, the new senior center and that kind of thing. So
It's only a small amount, but the trip to Newport was tremendously underwritten with the funds out of that 900,000. You know, like a Gunport, I think cost something like 150. Newport's only going to cost 56. And the question was asked, why is Newport so cheap? Well, we took some of the ARPA funds to offset the costs.
And when we say we mean Elder Services did, not the Council on Aging did.
Yes, yes.
That makes sense, Rosemary?
Yes, I see it's a different department. So Marilyn and John, are you telling me you attended those meetings and asked for monies to be spent on trips?
No,
No.
no, they figured that out
That doesn't
themselves.
seem right to me. It's tagged Elder Services. People are at the senior center. I want the people to benefit by the money.
I think Amy probably was the instigator on the money getting tagged, is my guess.
I think there was a process with the ARPA funds. I think it is, I believe it is accounted for. I do not have the breakdown. I did not bring that with me tonight. I didn't know it was going to be chatted about. There is a breakdown on what funds can be used for what. As far, if I recall correctly, even Elder Services, we only have so much control because a lot of it was already, when we did the presentation to get the funds, we had to allocate what funds was going where. So we have to do certain things with that. And I think like with Marilyn and I think Nancy said, we can probably go over this in more detail next meeting.
Next month.
Next month.
Yeah.
Have we answered your questions, Rosemary, satisfactorily for now?
You've answered my questions. Am I satisfied? No.
Okay.
I think there is some control, but we don't have full control. We have to stay in some parameters that were already set. So, but again, next month, that would be a good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right. So at least we have a plan to get better answers for you, Rosemary.
And the people who go to the center.
And for the people who go to the center.
900,000 Elder Services. Where is this money? Who has control over it? Did a check come? Is it in a bank? Who has access to it? I'd like
Well-
to know all those questions, answers.
We'll add that to the agenda for October.
Thank you,
Not prepared to talk about it tonight.
thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Financial report, the 3 trust funds. I saw they were included in the packet. Did anyone have any, I don't know if you had any comments on them, Chris. You don't necessarily need to have, don't know if anyone had any questions on it. But if you have comments, Chris, that's fine. And if not, that's fine. I didn't know if anyone had any questions on any of the expenditures or anything.
Can't see it. Is this the report?
No, I did not include the trust fund attachments in that packet that I printed out. It was just a lot more paper. So if you want to look at the reports, you need to open them up online.
And Jenna sent them out when she sent the packet to all of us by email. If you open up that packet, you'll find they're all in there.
What you held up, Rosemary, were last meeting's reports. Yeah.
That's the right thing. But you need a magnifying glass to read them.
I know. You have to go to the online version.
And then you can make it as big as you want. Unless you're trying to do it on your phone, in which case that gets to be a challenge. A magnifying glass helps too. Use one more and more often.
You
And
know,
Beverly, I see you're here now. I'll check you off as here.
Okay, I had trouble getting on.
Okay.
I did have a suggestion though. I think those reports are hard to read. I know some people with financial experience like the reports. Personally, I find them hard to read and understand.
Mhm.
I have a very simple sample form that I think would help us break down those reports. What we need is a volunteer from this group that would be willing to do that every month. Any volunteers?
I would think someone would need financial background to do that.
No.
Not volunteer, that's not my background.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
Who do we get the data from, Nancy?
You get the data from the reports, and the data is in there, but
Yeah.
someone needs to pull it out. I mean, could I do it? Yes, but I'm doing the minutes. So that's not a task that I want
I'd be willing to try.
Oh,
Great.
I can talk to you, Joan, and
Sure.
show you what I kind of drafted up, and
Okay.
then you could see if it's possible. Perfect.
Okay.
We'll be in touch.
That's
Okay.
wonderful. Thank you, Joan.
Sure.
There were also, Nancy, was Mark had gotten us a simplified report that focused on the interest as opposed to the expenditures. He'd gotten that from the trust fund people, I think, a couple of months ago. Is your report different from that, fundamentally different from that?
I don't know. Joan and I can take it offline and see what reports are there and what it will give us.
Okay. All right.
Fabulous.
Aren't we just basically interested in how much interest is accumulated and monies that we can spend from there, withdraw from the interest?
But it also shows you what some of the money's gone to, too, Rosemary.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, Joan?
It shows you where some of the money has gone also.
The expenditures.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Joan and I will put together a draft of what a simplified report would look like, and we'll bring it to the next meeting.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
There was something else I was going to say about that, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, that's fabulous.
Well, when you
Thank
think
you.
of it, email us.
All right. And Chris, did you have anything else to add? No, that's fine.
Not on that part, no.
That's
You know,
fine.
all I can find for birthday parties is around $500 or so. So,
I think,
I
but
think-
you know,
think
my
we were trying to
suggestion is why not wait to the next meeting and then do, even though September will already have been, they're already scheduled. So we'll just do September and October at the next meeting.
But we did September last month.
Oh, we just do October then at the beginning of the month.
I think we were just going to request funds for the birthday celebration and then movie and lunch. And if I remember, I was just looking through some notes. I was trying to quickly go through some stuff. And 500 did sound right for the birthday celebration, and then we were going to ask for some stuff on top of that for the movie and lunch, movie and pizza. So I think I had heard $700, but I think we were just I've been just calculating, and if possible, it would be nice to get $600 because numbers are going up, which is also increasing the cost. Sorry, I am jumping around really quickly, so thank you again for your patience, but numbers have been going up, which is good, with attendance for a birthday celebration, and we're also trying to get more numbers in. So if we could, for the 2 celebrations for October, it'd be nice to get $600.
Okay, I also want to remind everybody, we're coming into the holiday season. How about planning some monies to have special holiday celebrations, October, November, December? $600 isn't going to do it. And the monies that you've been spending now, when I go to these times, they're sparse. It's like, oh, you can only have one sandwich, or you only can have either a piece of chicken or a piece of eggplant. Why are we cutting it so thin?
Rosemary, over the most recent one, I think there was a bit of panic at the first. The food didn't look like there was as much as there actually was.
Because you had to have just a choice. You had to have chicken or a slice of eggplant.
Right, but as it turned out, everyone was invited back to the table for seconds of whatever.
And a
they
lot of
liked.
people came back for seconds.
Yeah, there was just panic at first. It looked like a larger group than we might have had food for. Frankly, it was just panic. But
my feeling is you're under ordering for the number of people who were showing up.
We actually did have plenty. Again, like Marilyn and Nancy were saying, though, we proceeded with cautions to make sure everyone gets fed first.
Yeah.
It's not a great precedent to start. We don't want everyone just to come up and grab as much as they want. When especially you can serve an appropriate amount first and then come up and have seconds. So we were being a little restrictive on that meal. I agree, Rosemary, but we wanted to make sure we had enough for everyone to begin with. And as it turned out, people were coming up for seconds and thirds.
We had way too much.
Yeah.
Way too much. I mean, there was so much food left at the end. I think some went to fire, some went to police. God knows where the rest of it went.
Yeah.
Well, I don't see it that way. I don't know how much was left over.
But you weren't in the kitchen at the end.
Right. I was not.
Okay.
Nancy?
I'd like to make a motion that we allocate $700 for the birthday party and the pizza party in October.
Is it a pizza party or a movie and lunch?
Movie, whatever.
Isn't it movie and pizza?
It's a movie and 2 pieces of pizza is what it is.
Okay.
And
movie and pizza.
water.
I second.
But do you think 700 is enough to cover both?
I don't know. You can amend it.
I don't think so, because I think last month 650 was asked for the birthday lunch. Well, that was Sally's birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bigger one.
All right.
I'd like to amend the motion. I'd like to amend the motion to $800.
I second that.
Okay, and from what fund?
Burbank.
Burbank.
Do we have a second?
I
I
second it.
second.
Any discussion?
No.
Nope, then I'll call the roll.
Yes, John?
So
Well,
will we get, will we
you're
get
gonna-
time to discuss and
You
raise
don't want
it
to meet in person, John.
from a $5 gift to 10? Will we have time to do
No.
that?
No, we all thought that should come from Elder Service. The initiative should come from Elder Services. So we can do that next month if they'd like us to. But just as this, Chris was right, Chris brought this to us. This is what he and Amy and the team have been discussing, is the birthday party and a movie and a lunch. So they're asking for it. It's just procedure. That's all, Rosemary.
So
All right.
is anybody discussing the upcoming holiday season and more funding is going to be needed? Like, if you're talking about funding for October, if you're talking about it now, are they doing something in October for the people? Is there a party, a special Halloween party or something, get together for October? And
We
if
don't
we
know
get
that.
the funds tonight, then we miss another month. Then you have
Yeah.
November and you have
You know-
December.
You know, Rosemary, it's really not the role of the Council on Aging to determine what the programs are. That comes from Elder Services, and we respond to that with being able to fund it. So I'm sure, and Chris can pipe in, but I'm sure Elder Services and the Pleasant Street Center are looking at November and December options, and then
I'm sure of that too.
they'll come to us in October with additional funding requests.
Right.
That'll be too late for anything extra special in October.
No. No.
No, well,
No,
It's
well,
October 3rd is our next meeting.
okay, we have a motion on the floor to allocate up to $800 from Burbank for the birthday party and movie and lunch / pizza. And we have a second. So unless there's other discussion on that specific request, I'll call the roll. Okay. Debbie Small,
Yes.
thank you. Joan Coco,
Yes.
we still don't have Karen Fatino, so no, she's
Here.
No, she's-
I'm
Oh,
here.
you're
I'm
here.
here, yeah.
Okay.
And I approve.
Okay, thank you. Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
yes,
John Parsons,
Yes,
Sally Hoyt,
Yes,
and I believe that's the last of who's here. Cindy Schaefer's still not here, is she?
Nope.
No. Okay, it has passed unanimously. So Chris, you have money for the month's events. Good job.
Thank you.
All right. On to new business. Discussion of the town request for proposals for elder and human services space. John has talked a little bit about this. There have been 2 RFPs. The first one went out, I think it was just blanket. What did anyone want to propose, if anything, to help meet the need for elder and human services space? And we got a response from, and please correct me, anybody, if I'm getting this wrong. But we got a response from Walgreens and they proposed a rental arrangement. And we can talk further about that in a minute. But since then, there's been another request for proposal that's gone out. And this
Buy it.
time, pardon me?
Excuse me. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, it's okay. I think you said to buy it. And that's the bottom line. Yes. My understanding is they're looking for proposals to sell us a building,
Oh.
a piece of property, presumably the 2 together, but sometimes buildings aren't owned by the same people as the property it sits on. So whatever might be proposed to us. And the answer on that, I believe, is due back on the 19th of September. So that's still an unknown. In moving forward with the Walgreens, I'm just looking, we might want to combine this with the discussion of preliminary space drawing.
yep. Can I just say a few things on the Walgreens?
Absolutely.
We had 2 walkthroughs and almost everybody on the council went through a walkthrough. What's in your report is from the Council on Aging. In your packet, there was a summary of the comments from the first walkthrough. I wasn't at the second walkthrough, so we might want to add those at some point. And then the space requirements, well, I'll get to that in a minute. But so we had the walkthroughs, and from there, the town manager and the select board decided that it would be, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, decided that it would be a worthwhile idea to contract with a architect to put together kind of like the drawings. They are not architectural drawings. They are simply the architect took the needs as identified by Pleasant Street Center and by that Council on Aging document. And also there was something from Recalc. And what the architect did was put together and tried to find the common denominators between those three charts. And that resulted in the drawings. And you'll notice that in your handout on the drawings, there's a big disclaimer that says, these are not, do I have it in front of me? These, the intent of these drawings is to provide a general idea of how the Walgreens building may be used for a new senior center.
Right.
And they are not architectural drawings in the sense of getting down to the nitty gritty of space and what do I want to say, plumbing and heating and all of that. It was just to give people an idea of how the Walgreens space may look. And some of the money, and I believe it was like $300 of the, don't quote me on that though, of the ARPA money was used to pay for this architectural firm, which has done business with the town, and to mock up these drawings. And that's all they are drawings, and they're meant to elicit discussion. They are not like set in stone. Things can be moved around, things can be added, things can be changed, but it was just to give people an idea of how the space could be used. So I think that's really important for people to understand that again, these are meant to elicit discussion. And at the last Recalc meeting, the one of the Recalc asks was to get more input from the Council on Aging in terms of how do these look? Do they meet the needs as identified by the Council on Aging? And that's that. John, I don't know if you have anything more that you want to add to that.
I think you've covered it well.
Okay.
I would add one point, Nancy. While we were on those tours, and I went on both of them, Fidel, our town manager, led the pack essentially, and a couple of times he said that this was only a temporary solution, not the long-term solution. And I think I was thinking we were talking maybe 5 years, only because we've talked about Recalc needing maybe 5 years to actually build a new community center. So I was thinking that in my head, not that anyone said 5 years to me, but it's actually, if we were to proceed with the current proposal, it would be 10 years at least. So we're looking at a pretty long-term solution here. And I just wanted people to be aware of that, because that was a surprise to me, because I was definitely told short-term, think, an interim situation. And we should be thinking potentially about this being a much longer term and whether it meets that need.
That, yes, that this would be what we would move from the Pleasant Street Center to Walgreens. Mark Doxer also expressed the same line of thought, that if it was decided to go with Walgreens, basically, then that's it, end of discussion. That would be our new center. So it's important to understand that too.
And I assume Recalc would disband, because mission accomplished.
I don't know.
Well, there's no long-term picture that they're working toward anymore if that were to happen.
So,
So
the discussion.
Recalc is an ad hoc committee, so that means it's going to sunset at some time.
Yeah.
Right.
So the discussion tonight is for people to look at the plans that have been generated to see, do you think these plans are going to meet our current and future needs if we were to go with Walgreens?
Yes, Rosemary.
My input on this is no, you're looking at a huge expenditure, a lot of money to do over that area. There's only 6 parking spots, which is a killer right from the beginning. What are you going to do with people who have hearing or partial sight? Are you going to have them park over at the Pleasant Street Center and hobble over across the street? It's not going to work. When we went inside Walgreens, it's a 40-foot ceiling. What's the proposal for that? And there's like 30 columns there. How are they going to work around the columns? Take them out and have the ceiling collapse? And it's a slab floor again, another slab floor, like the Pleasant Street Center has a slab floor. Any type of instructor who comes in there tells you that is the worst floor to be working on. Not only is that a slab floor and there's nothing underneath for storage, there's no lower level, but the slab floor has all these electrical hubs spread out throughout the floor. 6 by 6, probably with 8 different plug-in units. What do you do with those? And you're talking money here that you don't give the center. We're fighting for $800 to do birthday lunch or to raise a gift from $5 to $10, and you're looking at plans that'll probably cost $500,000 to do some work in this building. It doesn't make sense to me at all. A building that only has 6 spaces, a building that hasn't been able to be rented for 8 years because there's no parking there. The last company I heard that looked at that was the dollar store. They weren't interested in it. There's no parking. I say, don't do it. It's a money pit. It's a money pit. It's a money pit.
Anybody else have an input? Karen?
Thank you, Marilyn. I wonder, again, since I'm new to the council, what role do we actually have to play in this? Is the select board going to consider our input? We all went on the tour. What role do we have in this decision?
It's an advisory role. We can provide input as the Council on Aging, but we don't make the final decision. It's the select board that makes the final decision.
Will we be invited to that meeting or will we have to go on our own? But it seems to me that we would be invited when they are making that kind of decision.
Oh, sure. It would be on the agenda, and again, this is to promote discussion. So there's no reason why, as a private citizen, you can't select, you can't put your input into the select board during this process. But this is an opportunity for the Council on Aging to come together to put together an opinion based on what's already been put out there.
Well, and you did an excellent job summarizing all the feedback that you got that day. I mean, there certainly are a number of issues with that space, as well as the cost involved and the lack of parking, the lack of accessibility. Besides the expense of rental, the amount of money needed to convert it into a workable space just seems exorbitant. I also feel as though, since the RFP is to see if there's anything available for us to buy, it doesn't close until September 19th. It's almost a moot point because something else may in fact come up. But I'm against the Walgreens option.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got my hand up, Marilyn.
Yeah, and also Sally Hoyt wrote a letter, and Sally, I don't know if you're going to want to talk to it, if you'd like me to read your letter, but let's let John speak and then we'll come back to you, Sally, okay?
I don't know where they come up with a figure, but the selectmen have said that there could be as many as 60 parking spaces available around there.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't get it. But that's something that's been said. Something else that I was told by one of the selectmen is that there was actually new ownership in that building, as far as the real estate companies that own it. And this time it seems like something is going to happen one way or another because of the new people that own the building, not the people that have been sitting on it for 8 years. So just a couple of pieces of information. That's all.
Let me let Sally speak, or I can. Sally, do you want to speak, or should I read your letter?
Well, you may speak. You may speak for me.
All right. Let me just pull up your letter. Sally sent a letter this afternoon, and let me read it. It says, "Hello, Marilyn and members of the Council on Aging. I would like to present my concerns for the Walgreen building as Reading's future community center / senior center. Visitors would leave their vehicles parked on the site for several hours, unlike a drugstore which caters to people who shop and leave the site. I would also be opposed to leasing the site since it would be used for meetings, etc., and not as a vendor which generates revenue. Therefore, the asking price for leasing is a big issue. After leasing for 5 years, the cost would be $1 million. We should consider the price for purchasing the site, but keep in mind that we will not be a revenue generating entity. Therefore, the seller should consider our use for the site. Would the Walgreens site have ample space, such as rooms for smaller meetings, such as we now have at our current Pleasant Street location? The rooms have been an added convenience since we have need for smaller group meetings. Would we have restrooms on each floor? That could be a necessity, especially for older adults. Would we have restrooms for men and women? That could also be a problem, however. It is also important to consider. I would like to share my concerns with our members since I'm not sure I will be given the necessary time to voice my concerns. And I hope we're giving you time tonight, Sally, but we want to keep hearing from you after this meeting too. I will try to get into the meeting this evening and would appreciate having a link to join. So, Sally, that's your letter. Thank you for it. All right, more letters. I see Karen Panett and Karen Fotino. I don't know which one of you put your hand up first, but going left to right, Karen Panett on my screen.
I would just say that the parking is the biggest concern in accessing that facility. I just don't see how it makes any bigger difference than what we already have at the Pleasant Street Center. Even what we can do inside, it's getting the people there safely and the ability to park. That's a nightmare back there. And if you're going to make it 60 spaces, what are we going to drive? Compact little cars or bicycles in there to, make it safe for people to access? That would be my concern.
Thank you. And Karen Fotino.
There you go.
Okay. So I have the same concern with the parking, because if you can't get people in there, then the building is not very useful, and it has less parking than the existing senior center, and we want to expand our programming. So it just doesn't make sense. And even as I look at the proposal for increasing the parking, there's no guarantee that even those spots are going to be designated to the senior center. People already utilize those parking spots to go to other downtown areas. So if you can't get people to park, even if it was the perfect building, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work.
Nancy Simlak.
I also had some concerns about multiple use of the space, the way that it's drawn out. I would like to see the square footage big enough so that we are not having to move furniture and chairs for every single activity that is programmed at the senior center. And if you look at the downstairs, that whole section where all the tables are is movable. One of the proposals was movable screens. And we already have an issue, as Rosemary said, the ceilings are 90, what did you say?
40.
Are very high. So that means these screens are going to have to be soundproof. They're going to have to go all the way to the ceiling. So I'm concerned that we don't have permanent space for example, the game room. That should be a permanent space. And so I have some concerns just about the logistics of the space. But I thought that he captured kind of what we wanted in the space. An arts and crafts room, we want a function room, we want a kitchen, we want a game room. I didn't know about dance yoga, but perhaps we do. Billiards. I like the idea of an exercise room with a few bikes and treadmills. So I thought there was some good options. The library idea. I don't know if that's where the computers would go, because computers, that's an interest that I have. Mm-hmm. Upstairs seems to be pretty much office space and storage space, the way that he laid it out. So I'm thinking, it looks like for program space, we're looking at about 10,000 square feet that's downstairs. But there's a lot of logistics, as Rosemary pointed out. There's the height of the ceilings, there's lack of daylight, there's
Columns.
poles, yeah.
Columns, I'm sorry.
Oh, columns, yeah. So, and then if we have storage upstairs, how are we bringing these tables and chairs downstairs for the function room space? Or are we back to storing the tables and chairs in the room itself, which doesn't make it very appealing. And if we're talking about a permanent place, it would be nice to have an appealing look and feel, which the current Pleasant Street Center doesn't have. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Nancy. John Parsons.
Just let me, before I start, I think Beverly has been wanting to speak, but she's putting up her hand. Beverly, do you see how I have my hand up in the left-hand corner?
Yeah,
And
I
you see how
can't.
Nancy has her hand up in the left-hand corner?
I can't seem to find that. I'm sorry.
Okay. Why don't you say whatever you've been trying to say for the last 3 or 4 minutes?
I don't, it's quick. I'll say it quick. I just think it has a lot of potential. And I think that you shouldn't throw away the good for the perfect. And I also think renting is ridiculous. That's a waste of money to me.
Yeah.
You'd have to buy it. That's all.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you, John, for noticing Beverly. You're on my
She kept waving her hands.
You're on my second screen of images, so I don't see you at all. So thank you, John, for noticing.
Thank you, John.
Can I raise my hand?
Sure.
Well,
Thank
John, do you
Yeah.
want to go first and then?
yeah,
we'll-
several different thoughts or things to bring out. Just quickly to Nancy's thing about the exercise room. We visited 21 different senior centers as recalc, and exercise room, bigger exercise room. Almost everybody said we need a bigger exercise room. So if we're going to have something, we should have something more than a couple of bikes and a couple of things. But that's way in the future before that would ever happen. I don't think Walgreens is great. I'd be disappointed if that's what we wind up with. But we have to remember, if we're selling this to the town and we're selling this to town meeting, we're going up against Killam. Killam has got all this work that
Yep.
they want to do. They're going to be looking for millions of dollars.
Yep.
And one of our best shots may be doing what we can get out of Walgreens, because we don't have to build a new building if we go into Walgreens. If we wind up having to build a new building somewhere in town, we're probably talking more money than the Coolidge project. It would never, we're gonna have trouble making the thing fly. So as I say, I'm not big on Walgreens. I'm disappointed if that's what we wind up with. But I'd rather wind up with that than 5 years from now, still talking about what we may be able to do.
They're gonna be talking about it for 10 years, what Marilyn said earlier. If you settle for Walgreens, we're gonna be there for 20 years. We're all gonna be dead. We'll never see a new building. All of us here are gonna be dead. It's gonna be the generation behind us. Please don't settle for Walgreens.
Okay.
Well,
It-
let's
it's a-
let Joan have her say.
The only, excuse me, the only thing I don't like about the setup is there's no room for like Zumba, which was, they think the main room's not big enough now. So you need a room at least that big, if not bigger. And then with the columns in the way, that's going to be terrible for them. And, you know, I agree with Nancy. Who wants to move all those tables around? But to have empty rooms. And I dare the selectmen to find 60 spots parking.
Yeah. Thank you, Joan. I'll throw my own couple of cents in. One is, at the last recalc meeting, it was mentioned that that exercise space is not big enough, and they realized it. They just commented on it. I didn't see a difference. And Nancy and I actually met with a woman that Mark Doxer had introduced me to. We met informally just to chat. She used to do the accessibility everything for Harvard University, and she just recently retired, and she's looking for volunteer things that she might get involved in. So she wanted to know about the project, so we talked, and she too honed right in on that exercise room as it's shown in the diagram, and says there's no way that would fly. You need a lot more space. But the recalc committee is aware of that already. So I just wanted to, in fairness to recalc, point out that they had mentioned it. I share all the concerns about the parking and everything else with everyone. Another big one I have, though, is when the numbers got put together, they took what Nancy compiled from the first walkthrough, and they took input from a meeting that came from the Pleasant Street staff suggestions. And I'm wondering on the Pleasant Street staff, and Chris, maybe you know the answer. I don't know if you were involved in this, but were you basing this on the current usage of Pleasant Street Center, or were you projecting out to the population we might need to be serving 10 years from now?
We were basing a lot of it off the, we were trying to get the best size, visual size as best as possible. So we were basing a lot of it off of, not all, but a lot of it off the rooms in the Pleasant Street Center. You know, trying to just something visual when we discussed it a few weeks ago.
So just so I understand, so you're taking sort of the shortcomings of the current building with the current population and thinking how that might be better met by Walgreens. Is that a correct description?
I think overall, at least with size-wise with the rooms, you know, we're trying to compare our current great room at the Pleasant Street Center, you know, and what kind of activities are there. And we were also trying to figure out, you know, we were also trying to calculate, you know, how many activities go on at once, and if there's enough room to, you know, if there's, let's say, bridge and cribbage and, you know, 3 or 4 different activities, you know, if there's enough room and space for each of those activities. So we were kind of judging it off of, you know, our current capacity, you just to kind of get a vision, you know, being able to be in the Pleasant Street Center, sitting in the room and kind of getting an idea of, okay, this is the size of the room we currently have. How would that work for, you know, events and so on and so
Okay,
forth.
thank you. One of my big concerns with, other than the parking, is the population, because right now the Pleasant Street Center has approximately, is my understanding, 1,000 people on the distribution list, and some subset of that are the probably most frequent users of the Pleasant Street Center. But we do know we've got 7,000 right now, people over age 60 in Reading, and there may well be more people who would use it if we had more available to them. We don't know. There's no way to know that for sure. But I think if we look at other surrounding communities and how they've figured out square footage per elderly person, we could probably do some math and figure out, based on a population of 7,000, what's the average that other towns serve? Because it's kind of a catch-22. We look at how many come right now. Well, that's a number we can see and understand, but we need to infer from it, if we built bigger and better, would more people be coming, and how quickly would we outgrow it? And especially when we're talking about 10 years down the road, the largest part of the population growth is in the 60+ sector. So it's just going to get bigger. It's not about meeting the need right now. It's also making sure we've got the capacity 10 years from now, and that we don't have to meet again in 5 years saying we've outgrown it already. So those are my concerns.
Debbie's hands up, Marilyn.
Okay, Debbie. And Nancy's hands up too.
Hi. Well, you know, I agree with the people that say there's not enough parking. I don't think Walgreens is a good option for us, especially if we're going to be leasing. I don't, you know, it seems like a lot of money, and I just can't even see the space being made adequate for our needs. It's unfortunate that we can't rent the space where the library rented when they were doing their renovations. There's a lot of space down there where the old gym was, and the Reading gym was down there. There's plenty of parking. It's vacant all the time. I mean, if we're going to rent, why aren't we looking at something like that? You know, it's another temporary solution, but at least there's parking. I mean, that's a big deal. But just wanted to throw in my 2 cents.
Thank you.
If I could respond to what Debbie just said, as
Sure.
far as the space down, you know, by Market Basket, the liquor junction and all, the people down there seem to be moving closer and closer to putting in big time commercial space, including condos down there. And they're not going to want to talk to the town if they can make that kind of money on that property down there. So that property is pretty much not a chance.
Oh,
Did you read that somewhere? They're gonna put condos, or thinking of it?
Again, a selectman told me that.
Would that be the whole area, Market Basket and Stop and Shop?
I don't know. No, I was just asking about the former library area, and that's what I was told.
Thank you, John. I think one clarification that would help in that is, and it's again, are we thinking interim or are we thinking long-term? You know, if they're still 5 to 10 years away from starting their condo and commercial project, that still, I would think, might leave us a short-term window while we investigate a real solution. But I don't have any of that information, but I would hope that they were distinguishing and keeping all the options open, because they've got great big signs up saying space available for lease.
That's
So
true.
they must have some interest in leasing, either that or they just don't care about their signage. Nancy.
I would also be curious to learn more about what's happening at Oakland Road. At one point, that's across from the high school. At one point, there was talk of a senior center going up there, perhaps, and as well as housing, senior housing. And I know that there's an open forum, and I think it's the last week in September on this. And that would be interesting to find more about. I'd also like to find more out about Simon's Way, which is down by the ice skating rink, which a lot of people don't like the location. but there's a lot of land down there. So, you know, what are our options down there? And then I also read recently the Reading Municipal Light Department is looking to do something with one of their properties. So I'd like to, I think we all need to know a little bit more about what other options there are in town, as opposed to, you know, take Walgreens or don't take anything. You know, I don't think that's a good message for the senior population.
Thank
My
you,
humble
Nancy.
opinion.
Anyone else have comments they'd like to share tonight?
What property does the light department have? Where is that located?
You know, Rosemary, all I know is that there's a select board subgroup or something. I get notifications. I set up my town website so that I get notifications when things get posted. And I saw that the Reading Municipal Light Department. So one of the buildings down there, I don't know the details. But it would be good to explore. Is it, I don't want to cut off discussion if anybody has more to say, but we've said a lot of things here, and a lot of really good things. And we really haven't talked about what Recalc was looking for, which were programmatic space, although we've done a little bit of that. I'm wondering if there might be 2 or 3 people here that would be willing to meet as a subgroup, a work group, and see if we can put together the ideas that were generated here and put together some ideas, guidance for the Recalc committee, because they're looking for our input. What do people think of that idea? But I don't think one person can do it.
No,
It's got to be 2 or 3 people that are going to do it.
What exactly? Just list what we talked about here?
Well, and to draft a letter or correspondence, kind of like what we did when, remember when Simon's Way was, I don't know if you were here for that, but when Simon's Way committee was being formed, a lot like Recalc, and what this group did was we talked about it, and then 2 or 3 of us got together and drafted a document or a letter that was sent to the select board to tell them how the Council of Aging was feeling on it.
Okay,
So I think it would
we
be a
discussed a
combination.
lot right now. Is there a way of rerunning this tape and taking notes so that we know what everybody
Yes.
said?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I'll
This is
help with other people.
It's all being recorded. Are there any takers?
I don't want to do it alone.
You can't do it
I mean,
alone. Yeah.
I'll do it, but I don't want to be the only one.
I'll work with you, Nancy.
And I will too.
Who is that?
Karen Fotino.
Great,
Okay.
thank you. I will too, Nancy.
Then we're going to run into a quorum because I will help too.
But you know what? If we get to a quorum and we can figure out a day, we'll post a meeting.
Okay.
I think the more the merrier. I
Yeah.
think if we don't speak, we're right now the only group in Reading that speaks for the 65 plus population.
Do
And
we
if
have
we
any
don't-
power? Do we have any power?
No, Rosemary, we don't have any power, but we have a voice. We have a voice.
And Nancy, if I could just chime
And-
in on that, we have a strong voice. I mean, I
Mm.
definitely feel that Recalc has listened. I'm probably one of the noisiest people at the meeting, and Recalc has definitely listened to what I've been saying. I haven't gotten everything I wanted, but they definitely have been listening to me, Rosemary. So, you know, that they're not opposed to what we're up to. that they need to hear. And they've actually suggested, and we've had a couple of joint meetings as well, in part because of that. So I think our voice is strong. Potential.
Marilyn, are you, when you speak at the meeting, are you speaking as a individual in Reading
Yes.
or as a council on aging?
I'm an individual. That they all know I'm the chair of the council, but I never come in and say the council wants this. I just come in and say, show me how a wheelchair is going to get through that door, and things like that. And you know, they can take it whatever they want. But in fact, last meeting I made a real point because they were presenting stuff as though it were the Council on Aging's input, and it was input that came individually from Council on Aging members and were written up in Nancy's document, but I made sure they understood there's been no joint meeting. In fact, we went to great lengths on the tour to not discuss, as we are now, our opinions, because we were not in a formal meeting. And that in part led to why they said, oh, well, you're going to meet next week and you'll discuss, right? And I said, yes. So
if you go through the recalc minutes, you'll see that we heard about the wheelchair door 371 times.
At least.
At least.
That document that was given to the recalc committee, and I have to say, I'm guilty of putting it together. And basically, it was just a list of the comments from the walkthrough and the square footage from the feasibility study that was done by the Newton Center, because we needed something. They are moving ahead, they are moving forward. And if this group doesn't get their act together, we're not going to have a voice in it at all. So I'm really glad to see that Karen, Rosemary, Marilyn, the other Karen, and myself will be willing to get together to try to put together a strategy for this, because that's what we need. We need a voice and we need to start speaking. It's my humble opinion.
I agree with you. Otherwise, we're going to be just, they'll plow right over us. So Marilyn, you've gone to the recal group as an individual. You've been recognized. You have spoken in front of the group. The same like the select board. You can do that too.
Yes. Yes.
And do those two groups have meetings coming up?
The next recalc is what date, John?
28th. 28th. Just let me make a comment. You know, Marilyn has talked about we have a strong voice. I'd just like to say, I guess I've been on Council on Aging 7 or 8 years now. This is the strongest council we've had. At least I believe it is. With the people we have, with the input we're getting, it's the strongest council that I've seen in the time I've been on it. I'm very happy to see that.
I agree.
We just need to keep our momentum going, but it's going to take a group effort, absolutely.
And it starts with leadership too, Marilyn. So thank you.
Thank you. I try. Nancy keeps talking me out of quitting, so give Nancy credit. I keep getting emails, don't quit, but I send the same ones to her, so we're hanging in.
You make a good team. The two of you make a great team pulling us forward.
We're trying. All right, so where do we stand on next steps with this, Nancy?
Well, how about I send an email out to the people that expressed an interest. We'll try to find a mutual time that we can meet. And if we go over the quorum, then we'll just post it as a meeting.
Yep.
How does that sound?
Perfect.
Okay. And actually, maybe even to get ready for that meeting, we kind of, all of us watch this again and take notes and see what we've all said and see if, you know, we can begin to draft something that would go out to the select board, to recal, to
the newspaper.
To the newspaper. Yeah. Okay.
When you say watch it again, is there a schedule somewhere that tells us when this will be on TV?
It's,
That-
it's a recording. On some of the past minutes, I've given instructions on how to find it. I'd be happy to walk you through it, Rosemary.
Thank you.
You welcome.
Okay. Do we have a specific timeline that Recalc is expecting something from us, or?
Well, I think in the last meeting, they were talking about next week, because Recalc and the select board are very concerned if this, if the proposal comes in and Walgreens says, you can have this building for $100,000 or whatever, you know? The select board wants to be able to act on it really fast. So, you know, I'm thinking if we can get together sometime next week, that would be good. So,
All right, do you want to try to arrange that?
but the only, here's the problem.
Yeah,
If this group, this subgroup, just puts together a document, in order for it to be a council on aging document, we all have to vote on it. So, but I say, let's see if we can get together first,
all right.
and then we'll figure out
I
the
would,
next step
I would
from
think
there.
for the purposes of informing Recalc, we could tell them this is the draft that we will be voting on the next time we're together. You
I
don't
don't
think so?
I don't know.
I mean, they would know this is the meat of where it's going. One concern I'll share, and we just need to figure out how to counter it. The parking issue came up from virtually every person who walked through that building, and it comes up again and again and again. And what I've been hearing again and again and again from multiple people among our town leaders is, oh, we know Reading has a parking problem. We're working on that. And they dismiss it. And I don't think we can dismiss it. And I think we need to find a really strong way of saying that's not good enough. Before you go putting money down, we need to know now, what are you thinking about? I've heard mumblings about making the employees have a shuttle to an off-site
Oh,
parking
that's
lot.
ridiculous.
I
That'll
know.
never work.
Well, I'm just sharing, I'm not supporting it, I'm just telling you things that are percolating are things like that. I've heard mumblings about, well, what if the bank weren't there? I mean, there's mumblings, but parking is
Who's
so
mumbling?
important.
Who's mumbling? Which board? Who's mumbling?
I've heard people on Recalc, I've heard people from the select board, I've heard people from the town managers.
So those are the two boards that we have to address.
Well, you
Retail and.
also have the town manager and company
Yeah.
too.
Well, Marilyn, is that part of the discussion that this subgroup is going to meet and
Yes,
address?
I just wanted to raise it because we've all identified parking, and a reasonable person might say, oh, they're going to see we're worried about parking. I'm just sharing, we need to really put our thinking caps on, because they're just going to wipe that out, push that under the rug and say we're working on it. It's not just the senior center. There's a big problem with parking in Reading, and that's going to be the end of what we're going to hear before they make a decision. So we need to get our thinking caps on about that.
So we can be very specific about that, maybe even request so many handicap parking spots. So even the redo only had, I think, 2,
Yes.
which is, that's not enough.
Yeah.
The senior center.
I agree. John Parsons, your hand's up.
Yeah, I agree the parking is a problem, but just to counteract something that was said about people at the employees at the senior center or the Pleasant Street Center or whatever we call it, having to walk or get a shuttle bus. The town is not just talking about having it happen with employees there. They're talking about people who work on Haven Street, who work on Main Street.
The whole town, all employees.
Similar to the town of Wakefield does. My hairdresser, whatever you want to call her, the woman that cuts my hair, she has to park two blocks away because that's the way it is in Wakefield. If you have a business right downtown, you can't park near it. So just to clear up what was said with that, and one other thing that's made it more difficult for Recalc moving on this. when Recalc was formed, and Recalc's just going along months after months after month, and all of a sudden Walgreens jumps into the middle of this. And that was something we never expected. So
Yeah.
all of a sudden, not only are we dealing with what we started out with, now we're dealing with the prospects of Walgreens. And as Nancy pointed out, something possibly happening, 10 days? What are we at, the 11th? Something
Yeah.
happening 8 days from now.
Yeah.
And,
And
you know,
there's a November town meeting, right?
yeah.
John? Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot going on. It's very difficult. I think everybody's got to be patient with everybody.
Why can't we show up for those meetings in group and
You
voice
can.
our opinion?
Well, it can't be a quorum though.
Well,
you
unless
know-
we post a meeting, which we can
Yeah.
do.
One thing that it's important to understand, John just raised it, that Recalc had this timeline.
Yeah.
And one of the items on the timeline was, you know, these forums, the survey, the whole thing, and a feasibility study that was allocated from the ARPA funds for $300,000. Now,
Don't tell me that.
let me,
10,000 off the top.
yeah,
That's terrible.
no, that's a cheap feasibility study.
Yeah.
Killam is asking for 2.2 million for their feasibility study. So you have to think in today's dollars, and what these things cost. But Marilyn and I have also talked at length about this feasibility study. It's being shoved out the door.
Yeah.
And so I'm not an expert on how to put together a plan for a new building or to renovate a building. And that's what this feasibility study would have done. It would have taken all of our rough ideas and it would have put the professionals to work to determine how are we going to fit this all in, which is kind of what happened here, but it's going to be a true feasibility study. So that's something else also we all need to talk about at this meeting. What happened to the feasibility study just because Walgreens became available? So, and I'm going to shut up now. Don't let me say anything more.
I'm just going to add one piece to it. The other one that's being played down is, well, we'll look at the results that come in fast from the survey, but because of the time pressure, I mean, it's not just my impression. I've heard these words. Well, we'll look at the information we get fast, because that's what we'll have, but we're going to have to move fast. And the purpose of that survey was to thoughtfully allow a good month for people to get their answers in, for people that want to do it on the phone, to call in, for people that want to get it written on paper, for it to get transcribed and incorporated. And I keep arguing that, you know, the people that need the extra help are probably the ones that we most need to hear from, because there's more to a senior center than just a clubhouse. I mean, there are important parts of the senior population that are vulnerable and are probably less likely to be as computer savvy. I mean, I'm making assumptions and stereotypes, but I think there's certainly many that do fall in that group. And I worry about it. Are we really losing sight, if we move fast, of where the true most important needs are, and then filtering out to, okay, and I think of the other things as more preventive care. I mean, if there's a good, healthy, thriving community organization, that's going to keep a lot of people from becoming very vulnerable if it's successful. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there. Yes, Joan.
Also, excuse me, the select board really wants it to push through because they'll look good because of they've got a senior center going and everything. So they don't care about all of our stuff. And we've got to really make them pay attention to us.
Well, maybe we have to make some noise.
You don't think
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah.
And perhaps we need to reach out to interested other people in the community that are willing to make some noise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The new
When's the next-
library
When's
didn't
the
get
next
built.
select board meeting? Anybody know the next select board meeting?
You can look it up
Tomorrow.
online.
Yeah, it's online. all
Probably
the time.
tomorrow night.
Yeah,
They usually meet every Tuesday night.
you just have to go to the calendar.
Set their program tomorrow night too.
But they have they have like 15 minutes in the beginning, which is open comment, and then they go right to their agenda.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
but it's not a bad idea for someone to go and during that 15 minutes say something. And
Whoa,
wouldn't it be
Nellie.
great if we could get other people? You know, do you have a friend? Do you have a friend of a friend? I joined the Y. I go swimming now in the morning, and in the locker room, I notice it's all people my age. So I just generally call out and say, "How many people live here in Reading? Have you filled in the survey?" And they all look at me like, "What is she talking about?" And that generates discussion about what's happening. So we all need to be ambassadors for this effort.
Yeah.
Or
If you, the other thing we have to remember is all of this has got to go by town meeting.
oh
Even-
yeah, definitely.
Even if the select board likes it, town meeting's still going to have to vote for it.
Yeah.
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 And you never know with the money with town meeting.
Karen,
I'm on
just a
town
second.
meeting.
You're on town meeting, okay.
I'm on town meeting. And
I'm on town meeting.
so we'll all unite.
Okay.
Okay.
John, is your hand up or did you just not take it down? It's down, okay. And I just saw a chat go by that the town meeting agenda can be found at that link. So if you want to click on your chat, if someone wants to know, you can see what the agenda is for tomorrow night there. All right, have we done what we need to with this for tonight?
I hope so.
All right, it's a couple of other things on here. One is, I think Rosemary, you'd asked me to put this on here, talking about the difference between the Council on Aging's mandate and a Friends of Elder Services or of the Pleasant Street Center or of the Council on Aging or whatever it wanted to be. So I just wanted to briefly clear it up if other people are confused as well. The Council on Aging cannot raise money. We're prohibited from doing that. It's the law. But friends of something like the Council on Aging could. And so, for example, the library has a very well-organized Friends of the Library,
Yep.
and they raise money and they advocate and they do good things for the library. And you cannot take the Council on Aging and make it take on the role of raising money as a Friends of. And John, I think you said you set a Friends of up before. Maybe you know more about how these things are done, but if Reading wanted to have a Friends of, could be Elder Services, could be Friends of the new Senior Center, it could be, whatever, but how would that, just briefly, John, a couple of sentences, how might that happen?
No, I've never set one up. I've always said I think it would be a great idea if we could. I even at one time thought about dropping off the council and trying to set it up.
I've thought about it too.
And I still wonder if Elder Services can't go out and raise money and Council and Aging can't go out and raise money, how did we go out soliciting money for the 25th celebration? And we all did. We brought in probably $1,700 by going around to the merchants.
I remember Jane had an explanation for that, but I don't remember what it was, but it was
And if there was
discussed.
if a select person was joining us tonight, I wouldn't have brought that up.
Yeah. They might watch the video. I do remember that discussion and Jane had an answer for it. I think you probably were the one that asked the question then as well. But anyway, Rosemary, I guess the bottom line is they're two separate types of organization and need to be run under their own charter and for the separate purposes. And it's something we have no say in. I think anyone on the Council on Aging who also wanted to be on a Friends of probably could, but don't quote me. I don't know. I really don't know the rules of conflict of interest and so forth that might be associated with that. The other thing I just wanted to mention was the dates. I sent everybody a list of the dates. I'll come back to you, Nancy, probably a month ago. And Amy had a good eagle eye. I had my 2022 calendar, and below it, I put a 2023. And I thought I had the column of Mondays all lined up, and it was late at night, and I just went bing, 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 and picked them. Well, I had 2023, one column out of whack. So that shows all of our 2023 meetings are on Sunday. They're not. That's a mistake. I will send out right after this meeting the updated list. They're all going to be on first Monday of the month going forward. This was the only exception, and that's because the first Monday of the month was a holiday this month. And looking to, well, could we do it the next night? Well, that was a voting day, so we couldn't do it then either. So this meeting is the only one in this fiscal year that's not first Monday of the month, but I will send the corrected calendar out right after we get off this meeting. So there are no Sunday meetings. Don't panic if you happen to notice it. It's just, I goofed and Amy caught it. Thank you to Amy.
I have another question.
Yeah, and Nancy did too, right?
Oh, Nancy, you go first.
No, I was just gonna say that some towns call their senior center the Council on Aging.
They do.
So that makes it even more confusing. And that's all I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
and in some towns, I think those councils actually run the senior center.
Yeah.
There actually is some position in the town that they have, and it is very confusing.
In a ton of towns, not just some, in a ton of towns, the Council on Aging runs elder services.
I know, it's very confusing.
Yep.
So my last thought is, or a thought that I have, the fiscal budget for the town is being worked on. How do we get a line item in there to give us some money?
I think
They're laughing. You, Joan?
No.
You know,
You have to talk to the finance committee.
that's not a bad idea. You know who did that? The Cultural Council. They have a line item in the town budget, and I can't remember how much it is, but the Cultural Council gets money every year from the town to fund grants. So
Don't you have to talk to the finance committee about doing that?
probably.
I don't remember how we did it. It was when I can't remember how we did it, but I don't want to look. I could look into it, what they did.
I think if there's any hope of us getting any money, we have to do it now before they set up totally the fiscal budget.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I have a question about that too. So we voted, or you all who could vote voted earlier about funding for birthdays and a pizza party. How is it decided which activities the Council on Aging funds versus elder services or the $900,000 budget? I mean, how is that decided?
I don't think that there's any formula yet. I mean, the 900,000 is an anomaly in the history of everything.
That's true, but there is a budget for elder services. So I was just curious, how is it that the Council on Aging has to approve certain funding, and how would that determine what items are funded by the Council on Aging?
In the past, going back, well, there's two things. I don't think there's a hard and fast rule, but in the past, the general thought was that, my understanding anyway, as a member of the council, and it's not that I ever saw this in writing, but I think it's a sentiment that Jane expressed when she was the administrators, that the things that are kind of above and beyond what could be funded by the budget that elder services currently gets all create an opportunity for the Council on Aging with those trust funds to help elder services to be able to do more than it might with the money the town gives it. It's sometimes a little dicey. There have been times when we've been asked for things like new computers and stuff like that. And I think
And we get hand-me-downs. We always get hand-me-downs.
no, we got new ones a few years ago, and the council paid for quite a few of them.
Yes.
And John Parsons is usually our legislative person on this that says we're not supposed to be funding capital improvements or things. I'm putting words in your mouth, but you're the one that always brings us back to the financial sense of this, John Parsons. But there's not like an absolute rule, but my sense is that we, with those trust funds, try to create opportunities that are good for the elderly, that go beyond what the town is funding. The danger is the town will be complacent and say, oh, hey, Council on Aging could pick the tab up for that. And I think we'll see that come up with, they're already asking us to think about furniture for the new senior center, which may or may not be an appropriate thing and may or may not be something we want to fund. So it's not a hard and fast, but it's a good question. And
I do
John,
like that idea of asking for funding as well as a budget item. I think that was an excellent idea.
Yeah.
I know I used to be on the Human Relations Advisory Committee when I was a school committee member, and we had a budget. We were a similar sort of agency within organization within the town. We funded the Martin Luther King breakfast, and we funded an arts contest for the schools. So we had a budget. Why doesn't the Council on Aging?
Good question. Very good. John, I think your hand was up first and then Rosemary.
Would you say me?
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't exactly with the discussion we're going on, but while I'm thinking about it, I want to bring it up. I've talked to Amy about it several times. I hate to put a whole lot of pressure on her or someone like Chris just starting. But with all the new members we have, I really think we should do everything we can to encourage elder services, and maybe we take it on ourselves to produce what we all got, or a whole lot of us got when we joined the council. We got this book. We've got, I don't know, there's probably 12 categories in here that would be answering a whole lot of the questions and giving a whole lot of information to what the new members don't know.
Yeah, there was feedback on that. There were emails. I think Amy talked to Jane even about it, because Jane went back and who actually did it. And it turns out, Jane who did it. It was somebody else in town hall who actually did it.
It was Ann Gentile that did it.
Okay,
Ann Gentili. I'm not sure how she pronounced her name.
Well, Ann did it, and she doesn't do that now. Plus, a lot of what's in there, we can't just hand it to Staples and say, make a copy, because there's a fair amount of outdated stuff in there. Someone needs to do the work. And I think it was either Jenna or Jean or both kind of said, we need to look at it and see what we can do. But no one took ownership of it, is the bottom line so far. But I don't think it was dismissed. I think it just needs to be thought through. I think it's a useful document. I still use mine now that I found it again.
It's been, somewhat pushed down as priorities go. And I know there's a ton of priorities down there, but I'm not so sure it shouldn't be raised up a little bit, particularly for us. No, for us, meeting the Council on Aging, because Council on Aging didn't put it together.
No, we didn't. It came from the town.
It came from the town. Ann Gentili worked. I mean, Jane had an office in town hall, and she had the Ann Gentili services at her disposal, and she had them put the books together. But they were great. I'm sure Joan Coco will back me up on that, how good these books were.
Yeah. Well, Jane got a lot of stuff done.
She did.
That wasn't part of, and it's Gentile, not Gentili, but that's okay. And Ann retired, so that's why she's not around anymore. But yeah.
But that position was taken over by Amanda Beatrice. And then all of a sudden, Amanda Beatrice isn't doing anything at all for elder services.
Right.
And I asked Fidel about that, and he said he was going to look into it, but he's got far more important things to look into.
Amanda used to do our mailing lists and everything, and then all of a sudden, with the pandemic, she found other things to do.
Well, I think what makes a difference
I don't know who she's working for, but she did.
I think a thing that makes a difference is that Jane had an office over there, and Amy doesn't. So
I believe Amy can if she wants it.
Amy asked to move over to the senior center.
Right. I think Amy could have an office if she wanted it. She didn't want to be there.
No.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think that Jane really wanted to either. I just think
no, Jane did. Jane did. Believe me, she did.
But Jane knew a lot more people in town.
Yeah.
In town politics.
All right.
So she knew a lot of people at town hall that
All right.
And Jane was pretty forceful, but she went up and told Amanda or Ann, this is
Right.
what I want done. They
Right.
did it.
Exactly.
Maybe we can put this on the agenda again next month. 'Cause
Okay.
I don't think we have the parties here that can make something.
Can help us.
Yeah, not right now. Next month is the agenda. Rosemary, is your hand up from before, or is this another new comment?
It's up now. I think I lost my train of thought, although when I attended Mrs. Holt's birthday party, Jane Burns came. And I
Yes.
chatted with her. She's working up in Andover.
Yeah.
And the monies are handled for her. It's called a revolving account. And I had Jenna come over and talk to her about it, because there's the money handling for our center has to be corrected and updated. The money flow, I think, is not good. And even getting reimbursed for anything you buy and for the center and submit and receipt takes months to get money back. For Chris to get money for a birthday lunch, he's got to come the month before and not go over that budget. God forbid he buys 6 extra cupcakes and they go to waste. And, they're up in arms. Oh, whoa, we got to explain this expenditure. 6 extra cupcakes. Wow, So there's something wrong with the money flow here.
I don't think it's that bad, Rosemary.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
But again, it's one of those things.
I did hear when they talked about, oh, look at the pizza. We've got 2 extra pizzas. What are we going to do with these 2 pieces? Oh, they can't take them home. Oh my God. We paid for 2 extra pieces of pizza. Give me a break. There's something wrong with the money flow here. To be spent on the people. Spend it on the people who are there.
Again, these are
food and on gathering.
right. But Rosemary, these are again issues that you raise good questions, but this is not in the Council on Aging's control. I do have one suggestion, Chris, you might think of. I think in the old days of Jane, she used to ask for like 6 to 12 months worth of birthday cake money or birthday party money. We used to just pay for the birthday cakes because we got the lunches from Mystic Valley, but the quality of Mystic Valley got pretty grim and people wouldn't eat it. So, and I think after the pandemic, Kevin, I think, was the one who suggested, we're trying to get this going again. Would the council be willing to buy the lunch? And we said, sure. We hadn't spent any money in 2 years. We might need to revisit that at some point, not right now, because we still are hardly touching the interest. But we did pay for the birthday cakes, though. And one of the things that Jane would do is ask for 6 to 12 months worth of money, and she would get a Market Basket card. So all she had to do was hand the card to whoever was picking it up, so they didn't have to bother submitting or, a special request. They did need to bring the receipt back, but it was fine. That was just whoever owned the card could go tick, tick, tick. Yep, we spent it. And that took some of the pain out of it. So you might want to think about that as an option.
Great, thank you, Marilyn.
Are we else? Oh, I see. Karen Panett.
Yeah. So I have one of the Council on Aging manuals that I was given when I joined. I'd be happy to make copies of that, at least for the new members, so that they have something, and then we can continue to fine tune it and, update it if you want.
That's very generous.
How many would I need?
I've been on the council for 2 years. I never got one.
All
So
right.
probably since the pandemic started. But is this something that we could do online and scan it and just put it?
It came as a handout, so I don't have access to any of the info online.
I could take it and scan it.
I can scan it too.
Yeah.
But I can also
that
just
would be easier.
print out copies. I'll scan it and print out some. And then when we decide hybrid or in person or whatever, I can hand them out so that at least you have something to go by. There is some valuable info in it.
Sure.
Someone got their TV on or something?
Must be.
There it goes. Okay. Rosemary, is your hand up again?
Yeah. You mentioned Mystic Valley, the food. Did that money come out of the Council on Aging and come out of the trust fund?
Oh, no.
Where did that money come from?
Town.
Yeah.
Town? So we had some kind of a line item budget for food?
Mystic Valley does the food for the Meals on Wheels, and then we are hooked up to that.
Yes, but we used to have lunches through them every day. Where is
Right.
that money that hasn't been
I
spent
think
on it?
it came from a town who paid Meals on Wheels, and the luncheons were added on to that.
So we had a line in the fiscal budget for Meals on Wheels
No,
and
it's not. No, no matter how you want to check it, Rosemary, it's not in the physical budget. It's not in physical budget.
so how did Mystic Valley get paid?
Town paid them.
From where?
But it's in the town's budget somewhere.
That's right.
A fiscal budget?
In their fiscal year budget somewhere, they must have it. or
Yes, I
had
think we
it,
do.
yeah.
What happened to all that money that has not been spent for almost 3 years?
Money
Yes,
got spent.
yes.
Wheels on
Town.
Wheels was still done. Meals on Wheels was still done even with the pandemic.
Mm.
So that money was always spent.
Not to the degree that it was spent when we were having meals every day there.
It might have actually gone up, Rosemary, because more people, because they couldn't come to the senior center during the pandemic, so there may
Oh,
be
that's a
more
good
people
point.
that
Yeah,
went
that's a good point.
that
Yeah.
route.
Good point, Marilyn.
And I also had heard from, I think it was the Pleasant Street Center staff saying that the number of, and I've just heard it again on the news tonight, the number of food insecure families has risen substantially since the pandemic began. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's brought it up as well.
If those meals were coming from Mystic Valley, they might have gotten a grant from the state to provide that as well. So that might not have been coming from the town.
Okay. I don't know where it came from.
Right.
I assumed it was town.
Right. If it's through Mystic Valley or through Merrimack Valley or through senior care up towards like Beverly, Gloucester, those are all elder services. They're just different branches.
Yeah.
So they're just through the state. So
Okay.
sometimes they'll get grants to do different things, and that might have been a specific grant that Mystic Valley was given to provide things to provide meals to local senior centers. Quite possibly. I don't know for a fact, but that would be what I would guess.
Me either. You'd have to ask Jane. She's the only one.
Yeah,
around.
yeah. But I wouldn't think that would be coming from the town, because the Mystic Valley gets their funding through the state, basically.
Okay.
Now, I know in the past I've heard Brian Snell talk about how it's been a really good investment of the town. It might be that they just have a membership or something.
Right.
Because there are other services we get as well.
Right.
From it. And on that topic, Brian Snell reached out to me again. He's been reaching out to Amy since she was hired to see if she'd like to take the position on Mystic Valley Elder Services. The town is allowed to have 2 representatives, I believe. And typically it's been the administrator of Elder Services, and I don't know, and actually Brian, because he used to be on the Council on Aging, he used to be the chair of the Council on Aging. I know they both did it. And both positions have been vacant now for well over a year. And Brian's been looking, and Amy's expressed great interest in this. And last month I brought it up and she said she had the application all done. She was ready to send it over, but he just sent me an email just so you know, I haven't got it yet. So he's starting to poke around in other departments in Reading to see if someone's interested. If someone's interested in one of those slots, I really recommend you get in touch with Brian Snell at Mystic Valley Services. And I would even just reach out to them and ask them, is there an opening that Reading can appoint people? The council is allowed to appoint one of those people, I think, maybe both. And it's just been on hold. And I know Amy's got a lot going on, but Brian's there like, the months are passing and no one's representing Reading.
Well, who else did it besides Brian? I just
Jane.
remember Brian.
Jane.
Oh, I don't know. You sure Jane did it?
Jane did it and Brian did it.
Oh, because I don't remember her.
And I think Kevin might have done it for a while.
Really?
Do you have the contact information for Brian?
Let me just see if I'll send it in
You
an
can
email.
send, yeah, just email it.
And I don't want to step on Amy's toes. It's kind of awkward because last month when I brought this up at Brian's request, Amy jumped right in with, oh, no, 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 Marilyn, he knows. I've got the application coming. It's all filled out. He was just waiting. She was waiting for you to get here, Chris, but you're here. But I know there's a lot going on. I just don't want to pull the rug out from under Amy on this. I just don't know how soon she really is going to be thinking of taking on this extra responsibility. And Brian's just chomping at the bit saying the months are passing and no one's representing Reading. So it's kind of an awkward thing, but what can you do? Have we exhausted everything on our agenda? Joan, did you have something?
No, I was just gonna ask you if we were through.
Yeah. I know, I'm exhausted. I don't know. if the
I'm
agenda's
exhausted. And my dinner is sitting over here half eaten and quite cold, but the microwave will fix that very quickly. And I recorded all my favorite PBS shows tonight so I can catch up.
Then I make a motion to
Pardon me?
adjourn. I
I
said then
second
with
that
that,
motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you.
Okay, I have to take the roll. John, they beat you to it. You're slipping.
He fell asleep.
Probably.
I know, right?
All right. Motion to adjourn is made and seconded. Any discussion? No. Okay.
No.
All right. Who's in favor of it? Karen or Karen? Debbie?
Where is she?
Did we lose Debbie?
I think we did.
I think we
Yeah.
lost
I'm
her.
asleep.
Okay. Joan?
Oh, we
Yes, adjourn.
Karen Fotino?
Yes.
Karen Panett?
Karen.
She's sleeping.
Where is she? Is she still on?
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe she froze.
Oh, she is.
Oh,
she
there.
is. There she is. Okay. Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack?
Yes.
John Parsons?
Yes.
Sally Hoyt?
Yes.
Ah, you're still with us tonight. Yay. And Sandy Schaefer did not join us, so that's the end of the members, and we are adjourned at, what time is it?
8:36.
8:36. Thank you. It's been a really good meeting tonight, and I'm really so grateful to have people volunteering to help with these things. It's really important. And Nancy made the case for it, but I see 2 thumbs up. Yeah, it makes or breaks our ability to have a say. If a group of us can get going, I think we can make something good happen, or at
Yep.
least help minimize the danger of a bad thing happening, but that's kind of just as important. And Chris, thank you. You did a wonderful job. And I hope we didn't keep you up too late. I know your day starts early with all this. So thank you, everybody. And I will send out the corrected dates. I will send out the contact info for Brian Snell. I think that's it. I'm going to go heat up my dinner.
All right.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night,
Thanks, everyone.
Good night.